According to multiple media reports, on January 9 local time, the U.S. Department of Commerce quietly updated its website and withdrew a proposal seeking to restrict imports of Chinese drones. It is reported that this plan originated last September, when the U.S. Department of Commerce announced with much fanfare that it had submitted a proposal to the Trump administration to restrict or even ban imports of Chinese drones on the grounds of called national security. After the proposal was submitted to the White House for review on October 8 last year, it underwent internal consultations for several months. Finally, exactly 3 months later, the U.S. Department of Commerce withdrew the proposal on January 8 this year. All things considered, there are mainly 3 reasons why the U.S. Department of Commerce ultimately withdrew this proposal. First, it may still be due to political considerations, aimed at paving the way for Trump's upcoming visit to China. Recently, Trump has repeatedly mentioned that he may visit China in April, and is very much looking forward to this trip. Against this background, the U.S. Department of Commerce will presumably suspend the introduction of restrictive policies, out of consideration for reducing confrontational dynamics. Second, this is likely also a helpless choice based on the reality of U.S. manufacturing. The U.S. government always intends to wave the stick of regulation to restrict Chinese products from entering the U.S. However, when the proposal reached the operational level, the real difficulties emerged. Because although the United States has shouted slogans about breaking its dependence in the drone field, its domestic industry is not yet ready to take over the real baton. According to media reports, although there are currently about 500 drone-related companies across the U.S., their combined annual output is less than 100,000 units, which is not even comparable to that of war or in Ukraine. At the same time, even called trusted U.S. drone projects cannot escape deep dependence on Chinese supply chains, from Brussels motors to lithium batteries. Even if the drones are finally assembled in the United States, their core components are still highly dependent on Chinese technology or materials. The called fully U.S.-made drones are simply difficult to achieve. The U.S. Department of Commerce's intention to restrict Chinese drones is clearly of little significance. Third, constraints from the reality of U.S. domestic politics. The U.S. Federal Communications Commission has already banned the sale of foreign drones in the U.S. If the U.S. Department of Commerce introduces similar measures, it may involve issues of departmental jurisdiction and bring a lot of trouble in the follow-up. Therefore, it is very likely that after coordination with the White House, the U.S. Department of Commerce made a compromising concession. Of course, this does not mean that the United States has given up on restricting Chinese drones. As mentioned above, the Federal Communications Commission's restrictive measures are still in place. And even this week, the Federal Communications Commission exempted the import of some non-China-made drones, which will obviously deal a heavy blow to China's drone industry. Strictly speaking, the U.S. Department of Commerce's decision is not a product of finally seeing reality clearly, but a result of helpless compromise. In the future, if the time is ripe, or after Trump's visit to China, the U.S. Department of Commerce may once again bring out a proposal to take action against Chinese drones.